Now let's talk about the Los Angeles Chargers, and before I get into all of this, I just gotta say, Chargers fans, I'm sorry. This has been a brutal year, and the last couple of seasons have just been a huge disappointment. I feel your pain as a Falcons fan. I just want to say I'm here for you. This is a safe space. But yeah, the last couple of seasons have been really disappointing for the Los Angeles Chargers. This year is no different. Recently, the Chargers fired their head coach, Brandon Staley, and their GM, Tom Telesco. They fired those guys after losing to the Raiders, I believe 63-21 on Monday Night Football. It was a brutal performance. Really bad. The Chargers looked like they weren't even trying. Their effort was really poor. And it was one of the worst performances I've seen from a team, especially in recent memory. And so they decided to fire their head coach and their GM just a few weeks until the end of the season. So now they have some pretty big decisions to make. They've got to get a new head coach. They've got to get a new GM. And this upcoming offseason, they're going to have a lot of decisions to make with their roster. There are a lot of guys on their team they can cut to save cap space. There are some guys they can trade. So they've got a lot of big-time decisions to make, and I'm going to talk about all of that here. I want to start by talking about some candidates they should look at for their head coach opening. I've seen a bunch of names floated around, and I actually wrote an article about this last week, or actually this past weekend. I talked about 6 head coach candidates the Chargers should look at hiring. One of them was a joke. One of them was Urban Meyer, which I'm kidding, but it would be like hilarious if the Chargers hired Urban Meyer. But seriously, I think there are a few guys that the Chargers should look at hiring, starting off with Ben Johnson, who is the Lions offensive coordinator. He's going to be a huge name this offseason when teams are looking to hire a head coach. He's going to be a popular name. He's a good play caller. The Lions offense has been unbelievably good with him the last 2 seasons. They've been great. Jared Goff has taken a huge step forward under Ben Johnson, so I think he would be a great hire for the Chargers. I think putting Ben Johnson with Justin Herbert would be awesome. I love that pairing. I know that he is inexperienced. He's never been a head coach before, but I don't think that should scare the Chargers from hiring him. Another candidate who would be a first-time head coach would be Mike Macdonald, who is the defensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. Under him, the Ravens defense has been unreal. He's been their DC the last 2 seasons, that's including this year, and their defense has been elite. It's been awesome. And so I think he is also going to be a popular head coach candidate this offseason. And like Ben Johnson, he's under 40 years old. He's young. And he is inexperienced, but like with Ben Johnson, I don't think that should scare the Chargers and keep them from hiring him. Another guy I think that the Chargers should consider hiring, I don't know how realistic this is, but that's Jim Harbaugh, who is the head coach for the Michigan Wolverines. He's been a college football coach for the last 8 years, 9 years. He began coaching at Michigan in 2015, used to be a head coach in the NFL. He was a coach for the 49ers for, I believe, 3 seasons in the mid-2010s, went to the Super Bowl. They were great with him, and so I think that would be a great hire for the Chargers. And unlike Ben Johnson and Mike Macdonald, he does have head coaching experience at the highest level, which I think is a huge thing that's in his favor. After him, there were 2 names I had written down. Brian Flores, who used to be a head coach for the Miami Dolphins. Now he's the defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. And when he got hired with the Vikings, their defense had an immediate turnaround. Their defense was terrible last year. Now it's gotten a lot better. Their defense is legitimately really, really good. And so I think he would be an awesome hire for the Chargers. He was really good with the Dolphins when he was there, so I think he would be a solid choice. Another guy I think would be a solid choice is Dan Quinn, who is the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. He also has head coaching experience with the Falcons. He also used to be the DC for the Seahawks. I believe he was there during the Legion of Boom era, but he's been to a Super Bowl Obviously, they didn't win it when they, had that 28-3 collapse versus the Patriots, but he was a decent head coach in Atlanta. The players liked him. He is a great defensive mind. He has had a lot of success as the Cowboys defensive coordinator, so he is another guy that I think would be great. But those were like the 5 guys that I thought would be really good candidates for the Chargers to go after when they are deciding who to hire as their head coach moving forward. There were some other names that I thought of that would be interesting, like Bill Belichick, but I don't think Belichick is going to come to the Chargers. And it's not confirmed that he's going to get fired by the Patriots. I know it's being reported that he is, and I think he probably will, but he's not available now, and we'll see whether or not that changes. But even if he does become available, I don't think he's going to want to head to the Chargers because they aren't going to be competitive right away. They're going to have a little bit of a mini rebuild. It's going to take maybe a season or 2 before they're competitive. So it's going to be a little bit of a rebuild before they're competitive. And I'm just not sure that Belichick wants to do that. I'm not sure that that's what he is interested in at this point in his career. But yeah, those are like 5 names that I think they should go after for their head coaching job. In my article, I also mentioned like Kellen Moore, but he's not their interim head coach now, so I don't think they're considering him at all for their head coaching opening. I'm trying to think who else I named. I don't know if I really named too many other people, but yeah, those are some guys that I think they should consider for their head coach opening. Now we can talk about some guys they can hire to be their GM, and I'm not going to lie, I don't know all the GMs. I don't know all the front office members. So I decided to pull up this article from The Athletic, which listed 16 names, 16 people the Chargers could hire to be their new GM. And I'll go through some of the names, and I'm like, yeah, that's someone that they should go after based on what I know about the team's front office. And there are a lot of good candidates here. First off, we have Adam Peters, who is the assistant general manager for the 49ers. I like what the 49ers have done over the last couple of years. And getting John Lynch's assistant general manager would be good. I think that's smart. We also have, Joe Hortitz. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He is the Baltimore Ravens Director of Player Personnel. The Ravens are a really smart organization, very analytical. They know how to use data, so I think that would be a smart decision. And of course, I like that because I'm a data nerd myself. We also have, we have the Detroit Lions Assistant General Manager. Not sure how I feel about that because the Lions GM right now, I'm forgetting his name, I think it's Brad Holmes, seems to not be huge on analytics in drafting for premium positions, so I don't love that. What I do love is the fact that The Athletic listed Catherine Reich, I believe that's how you pronounce her last name, Cleveland Browns Assistant General Manager and Vice President of Football Operations. The Browns are a team that's very smart. They're very analytical. I think it would be smart to hire their assistant GM, and I believe this would be the first female GM in the history of the NFL, which would be really cool to see. But as you see from all these names I'm listing, like I like people who have like an analytics background or come from a team that relies heavily on analytics because that's the kind of person that I am. That's what I like. So those are the kind of candidates that I'm gonna favor. We also have Rick Spielman, former Minnesota Vikings general manager. That could be a solid option. And then we got Alec Halaby, Philadelphia Eagles assistant general manager. Love this. I think Howie Roseman is one of, if not the best general manager in all of sports. He's awesome, super smart. I think getting his assistant general manager will be awesome because Alec Halaby has to be getting like a wealth of knowledge. Like the amount of knowledge they have to have gotten under Howie Roseman has to be incredible, and I think that would be great for the Chargers to have. Let's see if there are any other names that I think are interesting. Not really. They named some front office members for like the Chiefs, the Bills, but I really like the names that I mentioned. So shout out to The Athletic. And I didn't want to give out all the names because you do have to pay for the Athletic, and I didn't really want to take money out of their pockets. So yeah, those are some potential GM candidates they could get during the offseason. Now we can move on and talk about some of the roster decisions the Chargers will have to make this year during the offseason. Starting out with Austin Eckler, they should not bring him back. Don't re-sign him. He's an aging running back who has been, honestly, just really underwhelming this year. His performance this season has been really, really disappointing, so I don't think they should re-sign him. And there are also a lot of players they will have to cut, like Khalil Mack. That would give them $23.25 million in cap savings. And cap savings is basically the difference between a player's cap hit if he was on the team next year and their dead cap, which is basically a combination of all their roster bonuses that they have for this season. So they should cut Khalil Mack. They should also cut Mike Williams, which would give them $20 million in cap savings. And they should cut Eric Kendricks, which would give them around $6.5 million in cap savings. If they cut all three of those players, it would save them around $50 million in cap space, which is smart. There are also some players that I think they should consider trading or also cutting, and that's Joey Bosa and Keenan Allen. Joey Bosa hasn't had a great year this year, I don't think, off the top of my head, if I remember properly. Maybe I'm just insane and stupid for saying that, but I think he's someone they should trade. One thing that I know is not great about him is his injuries. He's a bit injury prone, gets hurt a lot, and he's getting a little bit older, so he's someone that they could trade to a team who needs a edge rusher and some pass rush. I also think they should trade Keenan Allen. If they're going to trade everybody, they might as well trade Keenan Allen. Maybe they want to, keep somebody on the roster just to fill out the roster. And Keenan Allen is having a great season, so I could see that. But they could also save some cap space by cutting Keenan Allen. So that's something that they should consider. But yeah, those are some of the names that they will have to make decisions on when it comes to their roster. Their roster is going to change a lot. They're going to trade a lot of players. They're going to cut a lot of players. Their roster next year is going to look completely different, and I am really interested to see all of the decisions that they make during the offseason. It's fascinating to me. Now I want to talk about what they should do in the draft. Right now, they have the 7th pick. That's probably going to get worse. They're probably going to end up having a better pick, possibly a top 5 pick, because Justin Herbert isn't playing. They have an interim head coach. They are coming off a horrendous performance against the Raiders. In my opinion, they could very well lose out. They could very well lose the rest of their games, possibly get into the top 5. Do I think they should take somebody like Brock Bowers in the top 5? No. I know a lot of people are saying they should take Brock Bowers. I get it. Brock Bowers is great. This is not an anti-Brock Bowers take, but the smartest decision for them is to trade back. They need to trade back. They have so many holes on their roster. That's going to be even more true when they cut like half their team. They need to trade back. Maybe if they get into the top 5 and Jayden Daniels is available at 5, someone will trade a ransom to get Jayden Daniels. I think that would be great for the Chargers, but by no means should they be making a pick inside the top 5. I know they can get a high-end prospect, but they have too many needs. The smartest decision from a long-term perspective is to trade back, get as much draft capital as possible to fill out their roster. That's what I do. That's what I think. That's what I would do if I were their GM, if I were the one making decisions there. But yeah, so those are the guys I think they should hire or look at to potentially be their head coach. Also some people they should look at to be their GM. And then some moves I think they should make when it comes to their roster during the offseason. I'm going to take another break. When we come back, we'll talk about the Buffalo Bills and whether or not they are a legitimate championship contender.